Welcome in this tutorial about VoluMax SMART. SMART is the Swiss knife of the 3D animation because you can use it on various subjects like objects, food, animals, or even complex landscapes. SMART is very similar to VoluMax Portraits because it uses the same SMART objects to define the volume of the subject. To create a depth map, you have to see your pictures just like if your eyes were radars. You have to analyze the distance of the objects from the camera. VoluMax SMART is very powerful and can be used on complex landscape pictures that need a lot of layers, just like this example. Okay, so the first example here is a scene I prepared in Photoshop. We have 3 layers: the background, an old-fashioned vintage tapestry. I have the dog that I extracted from a picture in Photoshop using the lasso brush and extracting it. And I have a bone in the foreground. I'm going to import these 3 pictures in VoluMax SMART. The background is going to be imported in background. The dog is going to be imported in photo, and it's going to be the picture we are going to work on with the SMART tools. And the bone in the foreground is going to be imported in a 3D object layer. Let's go in After Effects. I'm going to open my project VoluMax SMART, so you can find it here. You have different versions. Just open the one you need. If you have a conversion message when you are opening the file, just say OK and ignore it. In this case, I'm working on CS6, so I'm going to open this one. Okay, I'm going to import the 3 pictures I prepared in Photoshop. I'm going to drag and drop them in the project panel here. Okay. I have the bone on a transparent background. I have the dog on a transparent background and my tapestry. So here we are in VoluMax SMART main comp. This is where we are going to animate your controller. But first we have to import our picture. The main picture we're going to transform in 3D is the dog. So it's going to be imported in one photo. Let's double click on this button. So let's import the dog in the layers. Okay, I'm going to scale it. And I can close the one photo composition. So now I have a message. I have to set up the depth map, then deactivate the X-ray mode. This is because we didn't do the setup actually. But before doing this, I want to import my background. I'm going to double click on the background button. I'm going to insert the optional background because you can work on a picture without any transparency, and in that case, you will not need to import a background. Let's drag and drop the tapestry in the layers here. Let's scale it so it fits on my comp. You have to take a look close here so there's no black border. Okay. I can now close this composition. So now we're going to do the setup of our picture. Here we are in the SMART setup. This is where we are going to draw our SMART objects above the picture of the dog. Something very important is that before starting, you have to take a look to your picture and think about how are you going to draw the objects on your picture. The first one, in this case, is going to be the nose here. Then I'm going to draw a line going around the eyes and going under. Then I'm going to draw all the head here. And I'm going to finish with the body and the jacket. So you have to respect the order of the SMART objects. The first object, the closest one of the camera and the brightest one on your depth map, is going to be SMART object 1. Let's activate it. I'm going to grab the pen tool and I'm going to start drawing my first SMART object. Okay, this is my first object. I'm going to show you what is a SMART object. Well, a SMART object is going to generate a depth map. To see the depth map, you have to get out of the X-ray mode. The X-ray mode will always show you the masks, the drawings, and your picture in transparency. This is the work mode. So let's take a look to the depth map that's going to be generated by our first SMART object. I'm going to click on X-ray mode, and I'm going to open the Effects Control panel. If you don't know where is your Effects Control panel, you can find it by going in Window and in Effect Controls. Okay, I'm going to deactivate the X-ray mode, and now I can see the first layer of my depth map. This is very flat. It's not very interesting, but you can see that if you click on it, or if you click here, you have a lot of options to give a little bit more of detail and volume to this depth map. You can change the brightness, you can add some volume with the VoluMax. You can boost your volume. You can blur the map. You can add some detail based on the picture. You can expand the borders if you have some distortions. We will see that later. And you have some nice dark and lighten options here. You can set up a point on your layer saying it's darker or brighter. We will see that later too. Let's go back in the X-ray mode and finish drawing our SMART objects. So the SMART object 1 is already finished. I'm going to draw the SMART object 2. I have to select it, activate it, and select my pen tool. Okay, I am now going to draw my third SMART object. It's going to be the head of the dog. And I recommend drawing a little bit out of the borders of your picture so that we'll avoid some annoying distortions, sometimes on the pictures in the main comp. Okay. For the pencil, by the way, I always activate the Roto Bezier option. That will generate some nice curves between my points. I think it's the best way to draw the SMART objects in VoluMax. We're going to draw the neck of the dog. And the last object is going to be the jacket. Something very important with all the SMART objects in VoluMax Landscape, VoluMax Portrait, and VoluMax SMART is that all the SMART objects have to be drawn far away from the borders of the composition. You have to guess how your object is going to be out of the borders of the composition. If you do not do that, VoluMax will not know how to volumize that object. And if you don't do that, it will follow the border of the screen and creates a strange bump near the borders. Okay, we finished drawing our SMART objects. Okay, I'm going to put all my depth map flat. I'm going to take the VoluMax off, and I'm going to set up my colors so I can see how the depth map are created in space. To hide the selections and the drawings, you have to click this button over here. It's easier to see your depth maps. I think this is okay. I'm going to mix all this by using the VoluMax, the blur, and the detailer. Okay, this is nice. If you go up here, you can see that you can modify the detailer settings. In the Effect Control panel, you can change the sharpness of all the detailers and the contrast. I'm going to leave the default values. Let's go in the main comp 4K, take a look at the 3D effect on my dog here. I have the background, I have my dog, and I can now select the VoluMax controller and move it in 3D in real time. Let's go back and set up and do some small adjustments. I want a little bit more volume on the eyes because I don't think they pop enough towards the camera. So I'm going to activate the lighten zone layer. I'm going to draw 2 circles on the eyes. Okay. And I'm going back in the depth map mode. I'm going to low down the blur value here. Okay. And I draw them maybe too big. Okay. Let's go take a look in main comp 4K. Okay, this is better. You can see now that the eyes are moving in 3D. Maybe a little bit too much here. Something important I didn't show you is that you can draw up to 3 objects in each layer here. So if in Smart Object 1 you want to draw 3 objects, they will be activated, but the 4th one will be ignored. So in the main comp, if you want to work in real time, just like this, by grabbing your main controller, well, you have to be in viewport quarter mode. If you are in half mode, it's going to be 4 times slower. This is too slow to work. So quarter in most of the cases is the perfect setup to work in real time. I'm going to show you very fast all the buttons here, what do they do, and how to customize your scene by using all the effects included in the VoluMax controller. So to see these effects, you have to click on the controller and go once again in the Effect Control panel. First option is you can hide the interface. That can be useful if you don't see well your animation, but if you leave it like this, don't worry, it will not be exported in your final video. In the 3D effects, you can find Relax, Boost, and Add Parallax. First one, Relax, is going to smooth your depth map. I'm going to put an extreme position here on the left, and I'm going to show you how the Relax is going to transform the picture. If I low down the Relax very low here, I'm going to have some distortions when I move my controller. You can see them on the borders here of the dog. Keep in mind that the lowest is the Relax, the better and the sharper will be the 3D result. A good starting point is between 20 and 40. I'm going to leave it at 30 here. Boost is going to contrast your depth map. It's going to boost the 3D effect. If I low down this value, you will see that the 3D is going to be more flat. If you raise the value, it's going to give you more volume in your picture. I do not recommend using very high values in most of the cases because it's going to kill the 3D effect in some parts of the picture. And it's going to add some distortions. So maybe in this case, I'm going to keep it in a medium value, maybe at 50. Add parallax is a very powerful effect. It was created in the first place for VoluMax landscape, but you can use it on smart or on portraits. It can be too strong if you push high values. If I raise it very high, it's going to distort too much my object here. But if you keep it maybe at 15 like this is going to be nice. But it's going to slow down your computer because this powerful effect is massively using your CPU. I'm going to put it back at 0 for now, so it's going to stay smooth in my viewport. Then we have the camera effects. We have the zoom parallax. This is going to use the same duplication effect than parallax, and it's going to move in your picture just like if you had a drone or a camera moving in the picture. You can also put negative values if you want to get away from your subject. The Zoom Classic is going to zoom in your picture or dezoom. This can be useful to adjust your composition. In this case, I think the dog is too high in the picture, so I'm going to dezoom a little bit here. This is better. We have the fisheye effect, if you know how it works in photography. This is the same here. We have the horizontal adjust. If you want to move your camera horizontally. And the vertical adjust. Here we have the background effects. We can set up the distance of the background from our subject. You can change the scale of the background. And you can use the background spherize effect. This is a bit like the fisheye effect, but only on the background. Here we have some effects. We have the depth of field strength. This is just like in photography. It's going to create you a nice photographic blur on your picture. And you can change the focus point. Here I'm focused on the background. And here I'm focusing on the dog. And here you can activate or deactivate your picture tiling on the borders here. So now I'm going to talk very fastly about the buttons all around the workspace here. The first one is called Resolution Guides. This is a helper that's going to show you the most common resolutions. It's just going to help you to see what will be the final result for your animation. The resolution guides will not be visible in the final exports. Here we have the flares. You can activate flares coming from the right or from the left. You have the flare selector if you want to change. You can change the scale of the flares. You can adjust the position in vertical and in horizontal. You can change the color balance and the color saturation. To see more about the flares, just take a look to the included video tutorials talking in detail about the VoluMax flares. Here is the particle button. First option is the dirt. It's going to give a vintage look to your picture. You can change the color of the dirt. Then we have the 3D particles. They're going to move in front and behind your subject. And here's the library of particles. You can change the density of the particles. You can change the main opacity, or individually change the opacity of each particle layer at the bottom here. You can also blur individually each layer. You can change the scale of the particles. You can add some chaos. If you are annoyed by a particle, maybe in front of your subject, this can be animated and can give some dynamics to your particles. You also have the 3D intensity. You can also create your own custom particle and randomize it. You can customize the curve, the color balance, and the color saturation. To see more about the particles, you have to take a look to the included video tutorial showing you in detail all the possibilities of the 3D particles. This button here is for color corrections. You can do some black and white, exposure, gamma, contrast, saturation, some nice Instagram filters, vignetting, and animated light leaks. You can also change their colors here. So we're going to animate our scene now. The VoluMax controller can be animated in position and in rotation. If you use the W key on your keyboard, you can rotate your controller. Let's say that the controller is on the left at the beginning of our animation here. Let's go at 3 seconds. And we're going to move like this on the right. By the way, you can change now the motion curves like this. So now I have my animation. If I use the 0 key on my keyboard, I'm going to do a preview now. Okay, here is my live preview in Quarter. This was pretty fast to preview. You can also animate the zoom parallax or the zoom classic or the fisheye. You can animate everything in VoluMax because we are in After Effects. Let's do a little zoom in our animation. A zoom parallax, like this. And we're going to add a little bit of parallax to get some more 3D impression on our picture. To see your animation keys, you have to open the controller, and here you can find them. We only animated position, and if you use the U key on your keyboard, you will see all the keys animated here. We animated the zoom parallax, and we animated the position. If you want to delete the keys, just click on the button. To create or delete keys, just click on the little stopwatch icon here. I'm going to add a 3D object here. The little bone picture I extracted in Photoshop. I'm going to activate my object 1. I'm going to enter in it. I'm going to go in Photo and import the picture in the layers. I recommend scaling this the maximum size possible here. I'm going to put an auto depth map by going in depth map and activating the auto depth map button here. To see more about 3D objects, take a look to the included video tutorial showing in detail all the possibilities of the 3D objects. So now we have our bone in the foreground. This is very big. I'm going to change his scale by going in the Effect panel. I can move it in my composition. I can rotate it. And I can also change his position in the 3D space here. We can see that the displacement is activated. I think we can put it stronger here. And here is my final result with a little bit more of work on the VoluMax controller, particles and flares. Okay, we are going to work on our second picture now. We're going to use VoluMax SMART on this picture because we clearly can see three objects here, and we're going to use the 3D plane to set up the table that's just under the cupcakes. So I'm in VoluMax SMART now. I'm going to import my picture in Photo. Okay, I'm going to scale my picture so it matches to my composition. If you work on a vertical picture, just put it like this, or a square picture like this, and ignore the black borders in your setup, in your animation. They will be cropped just before exporting. In this case, we're not going to use a background. My picture has no transparency, so I'm going to go directly in the setup. So I'm going to use three smart objects for my three cupcakes, and I'm going to use a 3D plane for the table. Okay, I did my three objects. Let's go take a look to the depth map. We're going out of the X-ray mode. And we have our three objects in three positions: close, mid, and far. Okay, we're going to work our depth map before doing the table and try to give a little bit more volume to the three cupcakes here. Okay, this seems nice. We're going to create the table now. Let's go back in the X-ray mode. I'm going to activate plane 1. This plane is going to create some gray values going from white here to black here. 1 towards 2. So what we want is to put the 1 in front of the camera and the 2 in the farthest zone over there, far from our camera. Let's go take a look to our depth map now. So what's very important here is to connect the three cupcakes to the table. Okay, this is better. It's not perfect, but it's better. We're going to go back in the X-ray mode. You can create a mask in your plane if you want to follow something in your picture. Let's say if our table was like this, then your depth map will not go farther than the mask you created. In this case, our table doesn't go farther than the third cupcake over there. We don't need to go at the end of the picture over there. Let's go in the main comp and take a look at our setup here. Okay, this is nice. It's a good starting point. I'm going to extend the borders here because I saw there were distortions on the borders of the cupcakes. Okay, this is better. I'm going to show you a nice option in the smart objects. It's called darken and lighten. Basically, you're going to tell VoluMax that at this point here, you're going to lighten or darken your depth map. In this case, we're going to darken the depth map because at the bottom of the cupcake, it should be a little bit farther. We're just going to lower it down a little bit like this. I'm going to do the same thing for the object 2. And I'm going to do some adjustments. Okay, this is nice. I'm going to add some parallax to see if it works. This is great. Something I didn't show in the first example is called zone protect. This is going to tell VoluMax that there are distortions somewhere in your picture and that we just want to kill the distortion in that exact position on my picture. You can see that we have some distortions here. So I'm going to click on Protect and raise the slider here. Okay, this is better. To see more about Zone Protect, go take a look to the included video tutorial. I'm going to do some depth map painting directly in After Effects by using the Paint Depth Map button. I'm going to double click on it and I'm going to paint directly on my depth map. I'm going to select this layer here and activate the Paint Depth Map tool. Here I can see a mix between my picture and my depth map I generated in the setup. I can set the opacity of the depth map or my picture. I'm going to go back at 50 and I'm going to paint my depth map directly in After Effects. I'm selecting my brush, double clicking here, and I'm going to paint now. And if I load down my picture preview at 0, I can now activate or deactivate by controlling the opacity my painting above my depth map. This is too strong. I'm going to put a medium value, something like this. This is off, this is on. So you can see that my painting is transforming my depth map and I can see what it's doing on the picture here. Let's put a 3D text just by activating this layer. Like the 3D objects, I can say if it's closer or farther from the camera. And I can scale it. So if I move my controller, it will be in 3D in front of my cupcakes here. Let's do a 3-second animation. Okay, and now we're going to export our animation by double-clicking on this button named Export. It's saying I have to go in the Project panel and double-click on Export Presets. Here I have to choose one of the most common resolution presets. These are faster than these ones because these export settings are based on the full HD resolution and these ones on the 4K resolutions. The green line here will export 4 times faster than the orange line. In most cases, this one is perfect. If you want to see more about the export preset, I recommend you take a look to the included video tutorial showing all the possibilities, how to do a custom resolution, and how to export for the new Facebook 3D format. I'm going to choose this one by double-clicking. I have to set my duration. My animation is 3 seconds long. So I'm going to set my time workspace just at 3 seconds. To export, I'm not going to use After Effects CS6. I prefer using After Effects CC versions. It will use Adobe Media Encoder to export, and I will be able to work while exporting. I am now in After Effects CC 2020, and I'm going to send my project to Adobe Media Encoder by using Ctrl-Alt-M or clicking here. I'm going to use the H264 codec and use the YouTube Full HD 1080p preset. And I'm going to click on the little green arrow here. Okay, my scene exported in 1 minute and 30 seconds for my 3 seconds animation. And here is the final result with a little bit more of work in the VoluMax controller and animation.